LinkedIn group?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was just sort of hanging out with you guys first, but I'll get my head around all the links in a minute and put them up. So the key links are, I'll share links to kind of connecting to MKAI and our wonderful community, which I know a lot of people are going to want to be a part of. So you'll see a Telegram link coming up from me in a moment on the chat. There is a working study group, peer-to-peer group that we've established on LinkedIn, which hopefully many of you can access. Come into there, and that's a place to grow your network. It's a place to ask questions, and also we'll be putting in the certificate of completion as well afterwards when we finish these sessions in March. Have I forgotten anything, Paul?
No, I think that's absolutely great. And it is just a reminder that, you know, if you would like to get that certificate, you're going to get that and you're going to be asked to fill out some reflections,
that's right.
Which are great because they help you harvest your learning, but also they help us put a marker in the sand to say you attended everything.
I'll put the next session up in March. That's the third one that I was thinking I'd forgotten just then. So yeah, Telegram, LinkedIn, and March session coming up in the chat very soon. So
right.
Just make it easy. Just click, 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 you're done. And then you can get on with the session.
So just coming up to 30 people, and a couple of minutes after the hour at 1500, we're going to make a start. And so welcome to a session which is all about coding in Python. That's what you're here for. And we invited you because we're hoping beginners. So this isn't an opportunity to show off your advanced coding. It might be better to come along to another event. This is coding for beginners, and Rupa Singh is going to be leading the workshop. A couple of things to say. We're going to be working on a platform, and so when Rupa sets this workshop up, she's going to share that link with you, and hopefully everyone's going to be able to get onto that platform because you don't need to download anything. But as far as I am aware, everybody will only be able to do that if they've got a Gmail account. And so there might be a little bit of panicking around that, but it only takes a moment to set one up. And it also only takes a moment to delete the damn thing as well afterwards. So we're not asking you to suddenly sign your life away to Google. It just gives us the opportunity for you to learn how to code without all the difficulties of trying to download an app. Which, you know, can be disastrous for different people. So we're going to take the easiest route, and you're going to be able to learn a lot of coding through this simple process. So stand by for that. Please do talk to us in the chat. Please do ask questions, and we will feed them in as much as we can. We won't be able to answer everything, of course, but we will try as best as we can. We're going to race through the time, and we're going to cover as much as we can. Now, the only other bit to kind of mention, and I'm mentioning this to Rupa too, we take on board people's feedback. If you could imagine, Richard, when you were about 6 years old, if someone was teaching you mathematics, it was so much harder to teach you, say, subtraction, just by saying, you know, just can I ask people to mute themselves if you can as you come in. The best thing to do is to say, if I've got 5 apples and I give 2 away to my friend, how many have I got left to eat myself? Examples are everything. So Rupa, as you take us through what are going to be many, many bits of coding, as much as possible, please give us examples of why that might be useful for the people attending here. And also, if anybody in the chat can help us too, when might we use that? When might that be useful in developing a chatbot, or in some customer service, or in creating a calculation for something, or allowing a user coming to your website to input their name, for example. So we're going to try and make this not abstract, but we also want to cover as much as possible. So Rupa is our leader. Rupa, you can say a little bit about yourself, but we're delighted to have you back after such successful sessions that we had in January. And so, coding in Python for beginners. Over to you, Rupa.
Thank you so much, Paul and Richard and MKI team for having me here. And it's always a pleasure being with MKI community. So, I'm the founder of AI Beehive, and we facilitate courses on Python, data science, as well as data visualization, machine learning, and deep learning. So basically everything about AI, and we give the training on, as well as on ethics of AI. And we are training in India across all the universities in India, and students as well as faculties. So great to have you here, and let's get started with Python. So So it's really amazing to see all of you. So how many of you are really excited to learn Python? And if you want to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how much would you rate? 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest.
I'm
Okay.
1.
Frank says, okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Sandeep. Amazing. I just love the enthusiasm. Wow. That's great. Nice to see your score, Richard. Great, Carlos. Vidya, 1. Okay. Amazing. No issues at all. So by the
Well,
end
I
of
put
the
73, but I'm just checking to see everyone's awake in the chat.
73, okay.
Can we have everybody join in with this? Just ask that one more time, Rupa. We've got 35 on this call. What was your question?
Yeah, please rate yourself on your knowledge on Python from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Okay, that's great.
You've definitely got a bunch of beginners here, Rupa.
Okay, amazing. Wow. So,
And just to say welcome, we've just had about 10 more people join. So we're just starting here on this coding with Python with Rupa. Back to you.
thank you so much, Paul. And if you could turn on your videos so that it would be fun interacting with you. And I can see your beautiful smile while we are learning Python. So how many of you are ready with your videos? Okay, I can see you. Great. Some of you have switched on your videos. Nice. Okay, so what is Python? Would you like to answer? What is Python? Is that the name of the snake? Or is that a programming language? What do you think? Why Python is called Python? Yeah, please.
I was really surprised when you told me the answer to this. We're just looking for an answer in the chat. Why do you think Python
Okay.
became known as Python? Does anyone know? No Googling allowed.
Okay.
So we've
Thank
got
you for
someone saying
that.
Monty Python, programming language, TV show.
Amazing. That's a correct answer. So Python is the Monte Carlo Python TV show, and it was created by Guido van Rossum, and he was fond of this TV series, and that's why after looking at these TV series, because he was so fond of it, he named this programming language as Python. So let me share my screen and I'll just tell you that why do we need to learn Python and what are the properties of Python, and then we are going to do a lots of hands-on practice. So how many of you guys are excited about doing hands-on practice? And so before we begin, I want to request all of you to start to log in with your laptops so that we can do lots of hands-on practice. And it is not we are not just going to talk, we are going to do a lot of practice. All right, so please switch on, please log in through your laptops. And can you see my screen? If my screen is visible, please give me a
Waiting
thumbs
on it.
up.
It should be
The
coming
screen
through
is
any
blank.
second.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The screen is blank. Choose black.
Yeah, it says your
sorry.
screen sharing, but there's nothing on there. So maybe it's a monitor thing or something. Have you got two monitors maybe? Or
Just while we're waiting for Rupert to do that, we've got lots of people joining us again. And I'm putting a few useful links throughout this session in the chat. So do save the chat at the end, which you can do with the three little dots at the bottom of the right. And we'll put some relevant stuff in here. And we've got a good history of Python there. We're just waiting for Rupert to start screen sharing. Rupert, you might want to just come out of screen sharing and go back in again.
Sorry, my system just got hanged. Just give me a second.
That's okay. We're just resetting here. We've got a question from Donny. Do you have any roadmap to help us study Python? Donny will certainly put some links into where you can go.
Arpit could address actually as well,
Yeah.
whilst Rupa's just doing that. I think Arpit joined earlier on. How would you respond to that, Arpit?
Good evening, Richard.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, very, very well, thanks. Yeah, so Donny said to ask about a roadmap there. I wondered how you'd respond to him.
To the roadmap of the Python or a roadmap of the AI? He's asking.
Yeah, roadmap of studying Python.
Okay. So very first thing is that the roadmap is very easy. Initially, we need to know what are the tools required to learn the Python language. Then after learning the tools required the Python language, we are going to learn the basics of Python language, such as syntax, how to write down the code, how to deal with the different kind of data, that is data types. After that, we are going to learn how to write down the simple programming in the Python. And once we are familiar with syntax, data types, and the simple programming in the Python, then we are going for the medium level of programming in the Python languages, where we are using the loops in the Python, functions in the Python, and with the help of loop and function, we can create so many real-time applications as well. And once up to this level you reached, then we can go ahead for the analysis of data using the Python language.
Thank you.
So
And
step by step.
Sorry for the interruption. Am I audible?
you are. Just to finish off that question, so essentially for everyone here, we're at a beginner's level, and certainly the roadmap for Python is a level type model, a ladder. You can get to a certain level and do really interesting stuff at that level, and like any language, you can do more and more the more that you learn, but you don't have to become advanced to be able to do some stuff in Python in your business. So you're having trouble sharing screen?
Yes. Please allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, we'll try that now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
We've made you the host. You've got the most power now.
There we go, looking good.
There we go.
So for those who are here, you'll see the view options, and just
now,
make sure you fit to window. So go ahead and click on options, fit to window, zoom ratio, and you'll be able to see that screen really clearly.
So you can see my screen now?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, great. So yeah, so just this is a definition about Python, that Python is an open source high level language, and that incorporates the feature of object-oriented structural and functional programming. So let's not get into details about it. So why do we actually do programming? What is programming used for? So if you pick up your phone to check what's the time right now, or maybe you're sending messages to someone through WhatsApp or Snapchat, as well as if you're liking somebody's post or comments as well as pictures, it's all because of the programming language. Because we have all these programming language which helps you to do these tasks. And programming is all about converting your ideas into instructions that computers can understand. So it's programming is just human ideas converted to instructions which computers can understand. So this is the person who created Python, and he's Guido van Rossum.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry, please, could you go back to the previous screen? I just wanted to write something out, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
A reminder to everybody, we will be sharing these slides with you afterwards. So if we go fast, this session is recorded, and also you'll be able to get hold of the slides.
All right. Thank you. I'm done.
So you can take the screenshot of.
Yeah. I'll be doing that. Thank you.
Great. So remember this guy who created Python, and this is the Monty Python's Flying Circus TV series, comedy series, which inspired Guido van Rossum to name Python as Python. So why should we learn Python? Well, Python is most popular for software engineers, mathematicians, scientists, data analysts, as well as accountants. And it is, since it is free and open source, and uh, you do not have to pay for the software. The software you use, it is freely available, and it's a high level language. It's easy and have really short syntax as compared to any other programming language such as Java, C, C++. And it is portable language. That means you can use it on Windows or Mac or Linux. And then it is interpreted. It is trusted by big brands, extensive support libraries, and low maintenance cost, wide applicability. It is used for a lot of applications such as web development, data analysis, for banking, and even NASA uses Python. And it has a great community support. So you have all the good reasons to learn Python. And Python is like a Swiss Army knife. It has a number of packages such as data analysis. For data analysis, we use NumPy and Pandas. For machine learning, we use scikit-learn and SciPy. And it is also great for scientific computation. So, and since we have libraries such as matplotlib and Seaborn for visualizing our data as well. And then for deep learning, we use TensorFlow and PyTorch. So these are a lot of Python packages that we have. And then the properties of Python, it is very simple and it's quite easy to learn. We have very small syntaxes, and it's like if you know English or mathematics, you can start learning Python. So it is that simple, and it is quite user friendly. And as we discussed, it is portable and you can use it on any OS. All right. So most popular applications with Python are, and all these applications that we use, Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google Map. And as we discussed, it is used for banking industry and manufacturing industries, used in artificial intelligence, used for scientific calculation, for NASA, for space exploration. So these are the applications that are done with Python. And what are the softwares needed? So please take a note of these softwares. It will be useful for you to refer in future. So this is Google Collaboratory, and we can use it just by going to your Google, internet, and we can start using Python. And we do not have to download any software for working with Python with Google Collaboratory. And then we have Jupyter Lab. For this, we require software to be downloaded, that is Anaconda software. And then we have Thorny and PyCharm as well. So please take a note of all these. So shall we go ahead if you have taken note on all these?
Yeah, I think, as I say, I'm not sure people need to write down notes because we're saving everything. But just so I'm clear, the Google Collaboratory that we're going to use, it kind of makes sense for beginners, doesn't it? Because they don't have to risk downloading stuff. This is kind of your first and easiest way into Python, which we're going to demo today.
Sure, great. So, okay. And then, so let's start with Gmail. So I hope everybody has their Gmail account. So let's log into your Gmail account and browse Google Collaboratory in your browser. So let's get started now.
So just slow down for a moment in case there are some people here that go, oh no, I don't have a Gmail account. So I'm sure you all know you can go onto Google, put in Gmail, and it'll say, sign up. And it really doesn't take too long to do it. But we're going to use something which doesn't need to be downloaded, but it does need you to have that Gmail account. And so it's Collab, Google Collab with 2 L's, should bring it up in the browser once you've got your Gmail account, and you should just be able to sign into it And that's going to be what Rupert's showing us now.
So here you can just type in Google Collab, and you can just type in on Google Collaboratory. And this is the link that you get for Google Collaboratory, Google search. Just click on this, and or I'll be sharing you the URL. Okay, so let me share this URL with you. Please click on this URL.
That URL's in the chat for everybody. Hopefully you're clicking on that and you're able to get in with your Gmail account. If not, just try and do that as quickly as possible, because we've saved loads of time not having to download, which can come later. But you've got everything you need to follow and join in with what Rupert's doing, because she's making this very interactive, so everybody here can take part.
Yes, so please log in to this using your Gmail account, and let me know if everybody is on the same page. Please type in the chat window if everybody is on the same page. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you, Philip, Arshita, Daniel. Great. Awesome. Vidya. Great. So this is, go to this file and you will see here new notebook, open notebook, or upload notebook. So please click on this new notebook, and here as I click.
And just as you're doing that, Rupert, I mean, I had a look at this after your last session. It's very simple and intuitive, just like with Microsoft Word. You can open a file, of course, that you've been working on before. You can create a new one. You can save. You'll find that that interface at the top is something you'll easily recognize.
Yes, correct. So, okay, so this is the file that we have created, new notebook that we have created, and you can also rename this notebook as February or Feb MKAI Python. Okay, so let's start with our first Python program. And so this is our first Python program. Hello world, or maybe hello Python. And once you write this, just click on this icon, or you can also do shift enter, and this will give us the output as hello world. Okay, please let me know if you have got this answer, the output. Okay, awesome. So let's understand. So if you want to create new cells, just click on this plus quote sign and you will get these new cells where you can write coding. And once you write code and shift enter, we will get the result. Okay, so first let's start with understanding variable and what is variable, because that's the first step of understanding Python. We learn so just let me share my screen once again. And what are the things that we're going to cover today? Please confirm if you can see the mind map. Are you able to see the mind map? Okay, awesome. So we are going to learn what is identifiers, what is variable, and what is data type, as well as what are operators in Python. So Python identifier is the name which is given to variable, function, class, or module. So how do we create identifiers? So so just like we have our own language, and so if I say, are you how? Okay, so you will get confused with this statement, right? Because there is a certain, we have grammar and we have a certain way of writing our language. And if we do not write the language in a proper way, we get confused. So this is how even Python, if you do not write the language which it understands, it get confused and it shows you syntax errors. So for Python, the grammar of Python is called syntax, and we need to follow these syntaxes when we are working with Python. So we have to create variables, and for creating variables, we first understand how to create identifiers. Okay, an identifier is the name that we create for variables or function, class, or objects. So how do we create identifiers? So the rule for creating identifier is that it should contain alphabets, such as it can contain A to Z, which is in small case, as well as A to Z in uppercase. And here, here I type hash, because in Python hash is considered as a comment, and it does not take it as code. It does not take it as a piece of code, so we do not get any errors. Okay, it is just a comment. So second rule for creating identifier is that it should not start with any digits, that is 0 to 9, but it can contain any digits within the name, contain any digits after the alphabets. Okay, and the fourth rule is that it should not contain any special characters such as @ or hash or $sign or maybe %sign. So it should not contain any of these characters, as well as it should not be a keyword. So we will understand what is keyword. So let's first concentrate on creating identifiers.
So just slow down again, Rupert, just so I'm clear. At the moment, you're not coding in Python, but you're using where you would code. You put these hashtags. These are just notes, aren't they? They don't do anything. You're just showing us stuff, and we can make notes at any time, can't we?
Yes, that's correct. So hash is used to create comments. And why do we create comments? Because if it is a long piece of code, we might forget that why we have done this, why we have written this piece of code. So it is for our reference, and Python gives us the flexibility to write the comments. Like if you add hash sign before any expression, then it is considered as a comment and it does not give you any error. All right. So, so let me ask you one question based on these rules. Can you just tell me that 3 blind mice, is this a valid identifier based on these rules that we have created? Can you
We're getting lots of no's in the chat, Rupert.
Okay, awesome. That's great. I just love your energy and the way you're learning. Great, awesome, guys. So why it is false? Because it starts with 3, right? So how can we check that? So we have an interesting method to check that whether the identifier we have created is true, is valid or not. So let me check this. So what do you think hello is a valid identifier based on our rules? So here I say hello dot is identifier, and then I run this and it says true. So that means it is a correct identifier, right? So let's start with, let's just create one more identifier. Let's check if, you know, okay, so can you tell me that if this is the correct identifier, if this is a valid identifier?
Mertcan said no.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mertcan. So yes, let us check that. Is identifier, and I check this. So it gives us false because it contains space. All right. So this is how we learn how to create identifier, as well as how to check whether the identifier we have created is valid or not.
Now we've got
Great.
the rule. We've got the rules that you've shared with us in that list. Just for everybody as a beginner, just go back one step before we go a step forward.
Sure.
In a way that doesn't use any other jargon, what is an identifier and what's it for?
I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah. So just remind us again, what, without using any technical language, imagine you're talking to a child that is just learning for the first time. What is an identifier and what's it for?
Okay, so identifier is the name that we use, the rules for creating names for variables, right? So it is so for example, variable. So let's understand what is variable. So anything we create, for example, we give a child a name, right? So the name is called the identifier. So you cannot give the child name as dollar or hash sign and something like this. So this is the name. How you can create a valid name is with the help of identifier rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Understood.
So after identifier, we are going to learn about keywords, and keywords are reserved words in Python. So it has specific tasks to perform. So keywords are just like, Python is like a dog, and I give this example every time. So dog just understand certain words like go, come, eat, and certain sentences it can understand, but it cannot understand a bigger sentences the way we human understands. Similarly, Python also understand few words, reserved words, and that is called keywords. Okay, and it has specific, all the keywords have specific tasks to perform. So let's see how we can get the list of all the keywords. And keywords are the building blocks of Python program. So let me write this. Keywords are the building blocks of Python programs. Okay, so how can we get the list of all the keywords? You just need to import keyword. So you can import keyword and press shift enter, and then keyword dot kw list, and once you press shift enter, you will get the list of all these keywords. Okay, So let me know if you get this. What does do in Python? All right. So
I'm just really on behalf of everybody that's new. You've said an identifier could be, for example, name. Is name an identifier?
yes,
Then you pointed out you're going to mention what a variable is, but then you jump to keywords. So I'm just making sure that we're all on the same page. Did you mean to explain variable, or is that coming later?
yes. No, we are going to explain variable.
Okay.
Okay. So let's understand about variable and what is variable. So variables are the containers. Okay. So variables are the containers, and so let's understand it as these are the containers to uh, which contains the data. So our computers, they assign memory to our data, and based on the type of data that we have, variable that we have, they give us certain spaces, which is called memory. So when you have, let's take an example in our kitchens. So we have certain jars and we label them, like if we keep cookies or rice or maybe your chocolate, so we just label them that it is the cookie jar or rice jar, and when we want to fetch, we want to go and take our favorite cookies, then we go to that label jar, and that's a work is done by variable, and it is used to store the data. For example, it can store students, it can store student score, or it can also store, for example, employee salary, or maybe your account balance.
So that's really good. So are you saying if, for example, name is an identifier, and you could say to me, Paul, what's your name? And I say it's Paul. Is Paul the variable?
Yes, exactly.
And if Richard says, well, my name's Richard, because it varies, he's not the same name as me, you know,
Yes.
anybody's name can vary, so it's a variable.
Yes,
But
exactly.
but the place where the computer stores all of that is the container.
That's correct.
Hey,
Great. So variable is a container. For
yeah,
example, if I create a variable name called Paul, okay, so I can create it as Paul, and it can contain your age. So if I create it with a list, right, it can create your, it can contain your age, your name,
yeah.
your salary.
But to be really clear, is Paul data or is it a variable? The actual specific name Paul.
Yeah, it is a variable. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And these are the data that is stored in the variable. All right.
Right.
Great. So, okay. So are we clear with variable?
Well, it's
So
just we have a comment in the chat, so it's just to make sure we're really clear what the variable is. The variable isn't actually Paul, is it? Is it that's the variable, or is that the data in the variable?
Elizabeth, as you stated it at first. Yes. Exactly. So if Paul is variable, so we have all these the data that we can give as list that we have, such as name, your age, your salary, or maybe your house location or country name.
Okay.
So let's start with a simple variable, which is so let's create a variable name called hello, or let's begin with mathematical operations. let's begin with mathematical operations. And Python, it's very easy to perform any mathematical operation. Suppose we want to add these two numbers, and we can simply write 2 plus 5 and shift enter. So it gives us the result as 7. Okay, so and then we write 2 plus maybe 16.5 and shift enter. It gives us a result at 18.5. So let's understand what are different data types in Python. We have integers, and float, string, and Boolean, and complex. So let's begin with integer values. And what are integer values? So for example, 45 is an integer value. So how can we find out what is the type of this particular data? So type, and if we put it within parentheses and shift enter, we get it as integer. Okay, and what is float is, so what is the use of these integer variables? Suppose we say age is equal to 30. So this is an integer variable, and right, or the number of people is maybe 34. So 34 is an integer variable since it cannot be 34 or 34.5, right? So this is an integer, and age is a variable over here, and 30 is the value that we assign to this variable. Okay, so email address is, maybe I write down .sync at aibeehive.com. Okay. And can you tell me what is the difference between this age variable and this email address? Can you spot the difference? Okay, the last one is string. All right, great. Yes, so age is integer and email address is string, since it is within double quotes, and anything which is in double quotes is a string in Python. Okay. All right. So let's see how we can find out the type of this variable, and this gives us as age, and type of this email address, and this gives us as string. All right, so can you find out the type for 67.45? Okay,
We
great.
have Mertcan saying float.
Okay, thanks. Yes, that's correct. So this is the floating point number. It is also called the floating point number, or decimal numbers, fractional numbers. And what are strings? So as Philip asked, what are strings? It is the sequence of characters, and strings can be, just a second. Strings can be numbers or characters And it can also be special characters and names. Okay,
And quick
so
question in the chat from Philip. What's the difference between integer and float?
all right, okay, that's an interesting question. So what is the difference between integer and float? So integer is something like 24 and it is a whole number, right? So integer is a whole number, and when we say that okay, so money equal to 25.75, this is the float number. So why do we require float number? So if I say that 0.75 is, if I just remove this 0.75, so this becomes 25. So if you have $25.75 and I remove 0.75, so will you be happy with that? No, right? So you won't be happy with that. So 0.75 gives us more precision, and if you remove this 0.75, it becomes an integer.
So if I was coding in Python in the health service, maybe making an app, and it's really important to have accuracy about my weight, it might be important to say you are, 200.34 kilos, and because it helps you know whether you've gone specifically up or down. Whereas if it's a birthday card and it's saying Paul, happy 55th birthday, we don't want to have happy 55th.264 birthday. So it's based on different uses and user experiences, I guess, as well.
Exactly. So so numbers, suppose we cannot have a number of people in decimals, in fractionals, or for example, and then floats, we can have your maybe weight or your height. It can be in decimal numbers. Your salary can be in decimal numbers, fractional numbers, or the price of any product can be in decimal numbers. Okay, so that is where we use integers and we use fractions. So let's do certain operations with integers, and so we will be working with first numerical operators. Okay, so we know that we use addition. So we have very simple mathematical operations in Python. For example, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So you can apply to any numbers. So let's say 45 plus 56, and this gives us 101. And then maybe 50 minus 40, it gives us 10. So this is so simple to do mathematical operation in Python, right? So if I want to add two numbers, I need to take 50 into 2 and shift enter. This gives you as 100. And if you want to use the power sign exponential, then what we can do? If you want to say 4 into 4 into 4 3 times, so you can just simply use this 4 and double star. This gives us the exponential value, and if you shift enter, we get the result as 64.
So ultimately, does Python have the functionality we would find in a good calculator that we might buy, which enables us to do all those things within a program?
Yeah, exactly. So all right, so let's see how we can do division. So this is a sign of doing division, and if I do shift enter, I get this floating value as 25.0. All right. Okay, so now we have something called floor division operator. This is called floor division operator. Okay, and what it does is, so if I type in 50 and 3, this gives me the integer value. This here, as you see the difference, that this gives me the floating value, and if we do floor division operator, it just removes the fractional part of this number, and it just gives me the integer part of once you divide this number. Okay, 50, if you divide 50 divided by 3, then it just gives me the integer part of the quotient. All right, so, and let's see 50% 3, and this is called the modulus operator. Percent is used for modulus operator. And so 50 modulus 3, it gives us the remainder. All right, so once you divide 50 by 3, it gives us the remainder as 2. So this is how we can perform arithmetic operators with Python.
So just to be clear again, so if people are on this Zoom meeting and they're accountants, you know, or they operate in sales, and there are certain calculations they normally do, they're able to do this within Python when they start to create some AI, some apps and stuff like that. This is all available to them, and you're demonstrating that here.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let me just see that. All right, so we covered identifiers, variables, and let's see how we can convert one data type to another. All right, so if I want to convert this 78.45, and as you know that this is the float value, right? So let's check this out. Type of this number and shift enter. This is float, and if you want to convert this to integer, and we can just write down 78.45, and this gives me the integer part of this particular value. So if I again want to convert this 78 into float, sorry, if I want to convert this into float and shift enter, so this gives me the fractional value in decimals, that is 70.0. Okay, so this is how we can convert one data type to another data type. So let's understand about string. So strings are always given under written under double quotes. So if I say hello Python, sorry, if I say hello Python and shift enter, so this is a string, and so let me assign this as variable. Let me assign it as, okay, web equal to hello Python, and let us check the data type of, sorry, since this is, and as well as Python is case sensitive, and that is why I got the error when I have written Feb, which is in lowercase instead of uppercase. So this gives me, now this gives me the correct answer as string. All right, so okay, so just, so this is the question to you. So I have a statement that is, this is going to be fun. I created a variable, and another variable that I created is okay. And now I print this. So can you tell me that which message I'm going to get as output?
This is funny.
This is funny. Okay, great. And why do you think so? We got this message and not the first one, as this is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's a case sensitive and the M message is a small one.
Amazing. That's great. So that's the right answer. So since it is case sensitive and it does not take the first message, does not take the first variable, but it takes the second variable. All right. So, all right. So let us do another. Yes. So here I write down hi, and then I say as result equal to, all right, or maybe input. So this helps us if we write as input, this help us, this allows user to get the input. Python allows users to get to give their inputs. So for example, if I write down, are you enjoying the session, right? And if answer is equal to yes, answer is equal to
Just why are there two equals, Rupa?
okay, because this is a conditional operator, and we're going to do that. Just a second. We're going to learn that.
Okay.
Okay. Print is not defined. Okay, I'm sorry. Since it should be lowercase. All right. So can you write this piece of code in your system? Let me give you this in the chat window. Okay. So if I say this as yes, so this gives me the answer as yes, that's awesome, right? So this is how we can take the answer from the users. Here, this is being taken by the input, can be taken by the users, and then we these are Python coding. So let's understand. Okay, so let's understand.
So just if you're going on
to,
if you're going on to something else, I'm just doing a time check. We're at 4 o'clock. So for everybody, we're exactly halfway through this beginner session. Rupa, you are flying along, which is great. We've covered such a lot. And just to remind people here, you don't need to remember all of this. And we'll be telling you how you can continue the learning towards the end. But if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of it, you'll need to look at the slides again, watch the recording. Everybody in the chat that's helping each other, that is so good to see. And Richard will post the LinkedIn study group link that you can all join if you're not members. But just wanted to just suggest, Rupa, before you fly a bit further, just everyone breathe for a moment. This is a time just to stretch. Maybe just put your camera off for 1 minute.
Sure.
Before we go on, time is going by. Remember, if you have any questions in the chat, we can save the chat and try and get them answered on the study group. If you're confused, what we're showing you in a way, we're putting you in a bath of Python, but hopefully easy stuff to start with. And I've been putting links in the chat where you can get clearer definitions on some things, but Rupa has her own resources that she's going to give you some limited time to access, and we'll say more about that later. Just while we're just resting slightly more, a very personal question, Rupa. Do you enjoy this when you're programming? Is it like drawing or painting? Is it something you find fun?
Yeah, definitely that's very interesting because you can really play around with coding, and you can be creative. You can be as creative as possible. So it's really fun, and it also helps us to do a lot of work. We can create our ideas into instructions. So definitely it's quite fun, as well as since Python is so easy, it is just like the way we interact. So it's really fun. It's really fun than most of the other languages, programming language.
And then just before we start again, something I'm seeing here, I think maybe you take it for granted because you do this, but for everybody on this meeting, where you're taking us now into conditional operators, there's such a magic word, which is input. This now starts to go into the real possibilities where your customers, where it's your students, if it's a college, can be asked to provide you with some information that you can then do something with. So here's the first time it feels you're making Python interactive in a way with what could be your customers.
Okay, so you want to, as I understand, you want me to explain where we use conditional operators.
Well, no,
right?
I think we have the answer. So the conditional operators, when you put that word input, like how are you feeling, or what is your name, or which is your favorite, that's when you I got a feeling this is where Python can start to help people, create things that would involve their customers, because they are the ones that will input, the users, the customers.
Right, exactly. So, well, whenever we take any decisions, it's whatever we do, it's based on our decisions. For example, if it is, we say that if it is raining outside, then I'm going to carry an umbrella. So this is the conditional statement, right? So if it is raining, I will take umbrella, and if it is not raining, I'm not going to take umbrella. Or if it is Sunday, I'm going to stay at home, and if it is Monday, I have to go to office. So these are the conditions that we always have, and based on these conditions and decisions, we take actions. So this is the same way we work with Python, and that is how conditional operators are used. So let me share my screen once again. And so here we discussed about mathematical operations. We learned arithmetic operators such as plus, minus, equal to sign. And let's understand about greater than and less than signs. And then we have comparison operators that we are going to learn. So, all right. So are you guys, we are on the same page, or if you're getting overwhelmed, or are you learning something? So let me know your experience. Okay, thank you, Alicia, same page. Okay, thank you, Carlos. Great, amazing. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandeep. Awesome, that's great. So let's learn about comparison operators. So let's forget comparison operators. So comparison operators gives us Boolean values. And what are Boolean values? Boolean values are true and false. All right. So how do we compare? If we say 4 is greater than 5 and shift enter, so this gives me the Boolean value as false. All right. So if I say 6 is greater than 5, then I'm sure you all know this answer. It gives me true. Okay. So let me take name is equal to Frank. And why do I write Frank in double quotes? Because this is a string. So if I say, and equal to, single equal to sign is for assignment operator when I'm assigning this value to this particular variable as name. Okay. And if I take two equal to sign, that means this is for comparison operators. Okay, so this is used for comparison operator. And if I say it, maybe if I say name is MKAI and so this gives me as false. So can you suggest why this gives me as false? Yes, do you understand this? Are you able to understand this problem statement? All right, so if I say again, name is equal to Frank, what do you think am I going to get? Will I get true or will I get false? What is your answer? Please type in the chat window. True. Great. Thanks, Aditya. Let's check this out. So we get this as true. So this is how we compare these two operators. And all right, so this is with the string, and we learned about greater than sign and less than sign, and how we can use these two operators. So let's learn logical operators. And what are logical operators? It is logical true, sorry, logical and. Logical operators are logical and. The second one is logical or. And the third one is logical not. All right. So how can we use these logical operators? So if I use and true and true, true and true, it gives me true. So this gives me true. And if I use true and false, this gives me as false. So the only time this logical and gives you true is when both the operands are true. Otherwise, it gives us false. If it is true and false, it gives us false. If it is false and true, it gives me false. And if it is false and false, it will give me as false. So let's check this out by typing in the code. So here we have true and true. And I do shift enter. So this gives me as true and false and true. So can you tell me the answer for this? These answers are either true or false. Yes, great. So this also gives me false. Amazing. So the only time it gives me true is when both are true. And in case of logical or, in case of logical or, we have when it is true or true, it gives me true. When it is true or false or true, it gives me true. And the only case when it gives me false, when both the operators are false. So let's check this out. And here we have false or false, and we do shift enter, we get it as false. All right. And we can also check for false or true, and this gives me as true. And not operator is used when we want to reverse our value. So not true gives us false, and not false will give us true. Great. So amazing. So can you try to answer one of the question? So if I say 4 is greater than 5 and 6 is greater than 4, what do you think we will have the result? Can you type in your in the chat window what is your answer? Please take 1 minute. Okay, Donnie. Awesome. Great. Can you repeat the question? Sure. So this is the statement that we have: 4 is greater than 5 and 6 greater than 4. Amazing. That's really nice. Amazing. That's awesome. So everyone is correct. So this is false. And why? Because we have 4 is greater than 5 is false. So here we have false and true. So which is going to give me false, right?
I think it's worth mentioning that because a lot of people are giving great answers here in the chat, but if you struggle with this, when we teach on when Python is taught to students, you know, in their 15, 16-year-olds, they sometimes come off Python at the start and just teach them these rules of logic, because at the heart of this is just the rules of logical thinking that are taught in philosophy. So if you're struggling, it's not because of Python. It could be that you just need to practice a bit of this logical thinking around either or and true and false.
Great. So it's really nice, and we have really amazing participants, and I'm getting a lot of correct answers and a lot of enthusiasm and participation. So great. So can you also try to answer this question? What would be the answer for the second statement, that is 4 is greater than 5 or 6 greater than 4? True. Okay, amazing. That's great. Yes, that's the right answer. Cool. Great. So so can you just guys pat on your back, and you have done an amazing learning within last 1 hour, and we learned so much. We learned how to create identifiers, we learned about keywords, as well as we learned what is variable and how to create variables, and then we learned about data types, and how to convert from one data type to another, and then operators. We learned arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators, and logical operators. Amazing. I mean, that's really nice. So how many of you feel, that Python is easy, and you are confident, you're feeling confident about Python? Great. Amazing. That's really nice to know, all of you. Okay, much more to learn. Of course, there's a lot more to learn.
But it's probably worth just pointing out again that now you've taken us through conditional operators. This can be used in much more sophisticated conversations with our customers. This can be used actually in navigating a drone safely, because they're also programmable, but just this simple kind of decision-making processes open up a lot of possibility.
Great. Exactly, Paul. So, okay, so you have any questions, guys? Anybody has any questions? Or are you, do you want to learn more, or it's enough for you for today? Thank you, Philip. Thank you so much. So is that enough, or you want to learn something more? Okay, great. You want to learn more? All right. So what we will learn tomorrow.
Well, just to mention to everybody, we've been running these each month, so there is another beginners session, and we can put the links in the chat. But also, Rupa's offering an intermediate coding workshop. Now, this workshop doesn't bring you to intermediate level if you're a beginner. It's kind of not one following the other. Intermediate, you know, it takes quite a bit of practice, and you need to go and practice this. But we've had feedback that people have come to that one as well, even if they didn't understand everything. It's kind of good to start to familiarize with the language, some of the thoughts, and hopefully you're seeing here, you're not expected to remember and know everything. It's too much to learn. What Rupa's doing is walking you a path that she's walked many times before, and she's taking you by the hand and hoping that she can let go, and some of you are already walking on your own. But it's a complicated thing, and there is more and more. And we do have time for a bit more, Rupa, if you want to go a bit further.
Sure. So, okay, is there a follow-up after this, or just practice and then take an image? You can also, Marco, you can join tomorrow's session where we are going to learn more on data structures such as list, tuples, dictionary, and we are going to learn about indexing and slicing. So it's a lot more learning, and it's really going to be fun. So you can join tomorrow's session as well. Paul, could you please share the link for tomorrow's session?
That's with me. I'll get it up in about a few seconds.
And I've just shared the one Richard shared earlier for the other beginners one, which is in March as well. We've got people here that were here last time. It's a good way of jumping in the same water. But actually, Rupa, your sessions are always a bit different. You're not just repeating what you did before. So this, you can come and remind yourself, but you'll probably pick up a few new things as well.
Yeah. So, okay, great. So we are going to learn about, in tomorrow's session, we will learn about lists, tuples, and we're going to learn about dictionary and set. So these are very important data structures, and you're going to learn all of that, and almost to intermediate to advanced level for all these data structures. So don't miss tomorrow's session. All right. So, okay.
Can you just answer a question, which was, obviously Python throws up error messages, and when you run the code, it says that bit didn't work, that bit didn't work. Do you have any practical advice for how you kind of polish your Python, how you work through, check it, get it all right? Do you have a particular way that you do that?
First of all, you need to keep on practicing, and it's just like, you know, if you want to learn swimming, you have to go into water. So it's just like practicing. The more you practice, you will keep on learning. You will eventually make mistakes, but Python also, when you're doing any mistake, it gives you a suggestion. It gives you the where you're making a mistake, and you can just go ahead and check in the Google for that particular error, and you can eventually correct it, and you can so this is how we all learn Python. So we do not remember everything. It's not about memorizing. We need to practice, and whenever you are facing any difficulties, just go to Google and or Stack Overflow. All these platforms provides us a lot of help and information.
And I
So-
believe you're offering people here some access to your own course as well, aren't you?
Exactly. So we also provide access to my course as I usually commit this with MKI sessions. So whoever is joining for both the sessions, so we are going to give them access to my Python's beginners course, or it's like an intermediate course, and for a week where you can complete, and you will get a certificate for completion, and it will also give you a lot of confidence on learning with Python and working with Python.
Brilliant. And just as Richard said, attending these workshops that Rupa's talking about, you can get a certificate of attendance. So that's not a certificate saying you've reached a certain level. That would be impossible. Whereas that's what Rupa does do. And Rupa is an established, as you can see, an effective trainer in this field too. But if you want to just have that certificate to say you attended these, which is a good thing to do as well, then we can make that happen if you attend these. And we'll just ask you to fill out, it's a very simple reflection form to say what you learned from it as well. Rupa, we've still got about 8 minutes left. So is there one more little gift you want to give everybody?
Yeah, sure. So let's understand. So let's work with string a little bit more. So if I say this string as hello plus world. So what do you think? Can we add these two strings? Or are we going to get these numbers? Okay, amazing. Donnie, great. So yes, we can have these, this can be added. And when we, correct, Carlos says concatenation, amazing. Yes, so it is concatenation. When we add these two strings, it is concatenated, all right? So, and if I want to have a space over here, I can do is, I can just give a space here, and if I write now, so this gives me hello world with a space, all right? So now can you tell me what if 5 plus 30? Now, what is the answer that I'm going to get here? 45, 30, okay, great, awesome. Yes, we're going to get 45, 30. And why do you think that we have got this answer, but not, this has not been, both these operands are not being added? There's no addition performed here. Okay, great. Is both operands are numeric? Awesome. Yes, because these are strings. So as we learned that if it is under double quotes, then it is called as, it is understood by Python as it is a string. All right. So that's why we get this concatenated. So if you want to write this hello for 3 times, so we can do this. And if I do shift enter, I got hello for 3 times. And what is, so, but if you want to write it 50 times, would you be writing it for 50, adding for 50 times? No, right? Because it's going to be very difficult going for 50 times, isn't it? So what we do is we just use this multiplication operators. And if let's not make it very complex. So I'm just taking 5, and so it is going to give me 5 times. So this gives 5 times hello. So this is how we can, okay. So you want to try 5 plus 15, Philip says, let's check it out. 5 plus 15, and we have shift enter. So this gives me the error as unsupported operand types for integer and string. Since integer and string cannot be added, so this gives me the error. All right. So Python gives us a very suggestive error, and so you can easily find out what is your error and where you are making an error. All right. Great. So yes. So now, if you want to, let's check this out. So now can you tell me what would be the answer for this? Perfect. Because I converted.
Well done, Donnie. Well done,
Amazing.
everybody.
Great. I just love this group. I mean, they're so intelligent, and they're learning so quickly. So yes, so here we can create this. Now we get our outcome. So this is how we can perform with different tasks with Python, and we can be as creative as possible, and it's really fun. So I would encourage you to do some more work. Do not just learn today and forget it. Please do practice more on whatever we discussed today, as well as you can also follow a lot of other documentation as given by Phillips. Also, he is suggesting a lot of Python sites.
And just a reminder, we've been putting lots of different helpful links in the chat. There comes a point, Rupa, where everybody starts trying to teach each other in the chat, which can be good, but also it can create confusion. So thanks everybody that didn't overdo it in the chat and just manage that well. Just in the last couple of minutes, of course, we want to thank you, Rupa, for such an excellent session, and you'll be back tomorrow with the intermediate one. Richard, just while we've got you, is there anything that you want to say about other events that are part of this too? We've got a whole range of things coming up in the next few weeks, as well as Rupa. So I'm going to hand over to Richard to bring this to a close. Thank Rupa. Remind everyone this has been recorded. Remind everyone to join the study group, join the Telegram group, and sign up for some of the other events. And Richard will tell us more about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed spectating today and seeing all the progress everybody's been making. So thank you very, very much to Rupa, first of all, for leading today's session, and for Paul for being in the kind of co-pilot seat, I guess, today, and steering us in the right directions. I can see it's been a really engaged group today. So really well done to all of you today. You know, this is great stuff to tackle and get your heads around and get active on. Sure. So we're running a whole series of programs of events, all different kinds. Last week, we were looking at becoming a data-driven AI enterprise, and we've got sessions coming up on the metaverse, on building your business and career in the metaverse. We'll be talking about DAOs and NFTs. We've got sessions coming up around drones and the business uses for those, including AI. And all sorts of fun stuff as well in terms of interactive VR galleries that we're building and so on. So I jump on that Telegram to stay in touch. On there, you'll see some messages from me, so you can go ahead and get in touch with me if you want to see more of what we're doing. I think the best thing is to follow MKAI on Eventbrite as well. I suspect a lot of you have come through from that today. And then you'll get updated on the events that we have and new events that we publish. Follow us on LinkedIn. Actually, that would be a great place to stay in touch as well. So you can search for MKAI on there. And if my computer goes fast enough with all the stuff I've got on one screen, I'll put the link up for our group as well. That will be a good place to be. What have I missed there, Paul? What else should I add?
We've just got a few people very concerned about where they can get access to the video and the slides. So maybe just play that one more time.
Yeah, so I'll